All right, Cousin Ed, here we are on your Sunshine font. I think we got it saved, and it won't be a shelf queen, it'll be a runner. Um, Obviously, what we talked about was the fuel pickup tube was clogged. I thought that at the time when they replated it, that they may have tried to use something like Caswell or Red Coat or something to fix the stress cracks and clog the tube. Um, but what I did was I took a metal rod when I took the valve off, dropped it down, cut a little angle, tried to spin it, and I didn't get a dull sound when I dropped it down. I got a metallic clink. So I knew the clog was metal. So what I did then was put the fuel cap back on, pressurized the font, did a bubble test underwater, and one of the stress cracks, I got no air bubbles coming out of it. It was sealed. The other two, I got very, very small bubbles coming out. Considering the size of the stress cracks, I should have gotten a lot of bubbles coming out of that. So when I rinsed it with acetone, like I told you I was going to dump the acetone, I didn't get any indication that there was any dissolving of any kind of chemical sealer, but I did get a lot of powdered rust. So this is my best guess. When they replated it, they tried to fix the stress cracks by soldering it internally. What you do is you put a little acid in, roll it around to clean up the steel plate on the bottom. Then you put solder into it, like little pieces of solder. Hit it with a torch. When you think you got your solder melted, you roll it, and hopefully the solder will fill those stress cracks. Now it did, I think, fill them to a certain degree because the amount of air coming out wasn't as much as I would have expected it to be for the size of the crack. The problem was it also sealed the inside of the fuel pickup tube. What I did, I took one of my drills and I drilled down, and I was able to get a little bit of silver solder shaving coming up. I couldn't reach far enough down, so I went to the hardware store, bought an extended long drill, and drilled it. And I did get a considerable amount of solder out. And then finally I got to the point where I had brass, so I knew I was, hitting the plug there. It still did not clear it. So what I did, I instead of wasting more time with solvents and stuff like that, I immediately switched to heroic. I drilled all the way through. And I drilled through this little metal nut. And then what I did was I unscrewed, took the nut off, took the washer off. I think I sent you a picture of how rusted it was under there. So what I was able to do then, I tilted this up on an angle, and I'll send you a still picture of this. And with my drill, I came in at an angle right up next to the tube, drilled through the tube and into the font above the bottom of the font itself, the floor of the font. Then soldered it, put the washer on, soldered that, put the nut back on, soldered that. The solder isn't quite as pretty as I would like, but I didn't want to do too much grinding or buffing on that because the plating is pretty good. I didn't want to screw that up. So anyway, the bottom line is the fuel tube is free. So then what I did was I came back with the Caswell, mixed my Caswell, poured it in, and rolled it. Now this is kind of a involved process. The Caswell is thick like honey. So you have to slowly roll the font so the Caswell flows around the inside. Takes 3 revolutions usually to cover it. That takes about 40 minutes sitting on the sofa slowly turning it. Anyway, after it cured, I pumped it up, gave it 30 pumps, put it underwater, no leak whatsoever. So we saved it. So there we go. That's the story on this. I'll email you, or in this email you have the invoice and all that. And there we go. It's not going to be a shelf queen. It's going to be a runner. All right. Thanks. This is an interesting project. I enjoyed figuring out how to fix it. You all have a good week. Bye.